the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing. This is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report. I am Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined this week by, of course, James St. James, editor of the Wow Report, and standing in for Tom Campbell, Seth Abramovich. Welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be here. I'm a fill-in bear.
It's always a pleasure to have you. I should say, I think the world knows that you're a very important writer for The Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah, well, I don't know about important, but I am one, yes.
You write
As of
great
last 5 minutes, yes, I am still
I'm going to be asking your advice all the way through the show because I have a lot of questions that relate to your beat, as it were. All right, so we count down top 10 things every week that make us go wow, and we start at number 10. Oh my gosh, James.
Number 10.
Number 10.
I get to be number 10. I'm so excited. I'm actually very excited because I want to share with everybody that season 2 of our podcast, Night Fever, New York Nightlife Legends of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond, is back. We have 11 new episodes. We've got a superstar lineup of nightlife legends telling their outrageous stories. This year we have Suzanne Barsh talking about building her nightlife empire. We have trans icon, punk pioneer, Warhol superstar Jane County, who was there at Stonewall the night they threw the first brick. She was an early inspiration for David Bowie, Kiss, the New York Dolls. She's absolutely fantastic. We have genitalia, who was a former club kid and is now a community organizer. She runs the Lower East Side Girls Club in New York, and her pivot from club kid nuttiness to, being an inspiration for young women everywhere is sort of interesting. We also get into some really serious stuff with we have Brian Belovich on our show this season, who is a gender outlier, a self-described gender outlier, whose journey from boy to girl to woman to man is the basis of his book Transfigured. He was a trans woman in the 70s and 80s, a big club icon, and then has retransitioned back into being a man, and his story is absolutely interesting. We have Connie Girl, who is a trans woman of color who was a supermodel in the 90s and faced all sorts of weird transphobia in the fashion industry, and talks about that. So we have a lot of really, really interesting people. That's just the beginning. I hope everyone gets to tune in. You can do it wherever you get your podcasts, on Apple, Spotify, or you can watch it on Wow Presents Plus streaming.
James, I love that. That's a brilliant summary. I'm curious, like, having done 2 seasons now, what do you think is the sort of, why does it matter to tell these stories, Well,
it's interesting because season 1 was sort of just about telling my story, and it was about my place in the club scene, and these are the people who were inspiring to me and who mentored me. And this season, we're sort of branching out a little bit. We're telling more stories about different people from the 60s, 70s, and these stories are important. These are our icons. These are people who are legends, and if we don't tell these stories, they might get lost, and it's important to, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, and these are the giants who paved the way for all of us, and we need to give them their props and give them their dues. So it's, we tell a lot of goofy stories about being fucked up and throwing up on each other's shoes and all, but we also get into some really serious issues and some really serious topics. So we cover a lot of bases.
I'm sort of struck by how, it's a bit like an iceberg. Like, the culture is the bit that sits above the water, and you think, oh, that's the culture, and you write stories about it. But then all this stuff happens below the water, and that's how you get the stuff above the water. It's like, I'd never really given full accounting to how much our culture is shaped by what goes on in these places at night, and all that fucked up craziness. It's like being in the sort of wherever volcanoes start, under the earth.
James, I was looking for a great club to go to in LA, and I couldn't really find a satisfying one, the kind that I remembered from my 20s in New York. And I'm wondering what you think about this, the state of clubs and club kids and club culture in 2022. I mean, obviously, pandemic didn't help, but
Well, I mean, it's funny because, Giorgio's in Los Angeles was a really fun place for a while that had that policy of, no cell phone, no photos. Celebrities could go and be themselves and not have to worry about, being recorded or anything. And that's sort of what that feeling was in the 80s, where you could go to clubs and act up and be who you were and not have to worry that you were going to end up on Instagram or TikTok the next day. And so there are places still, but the whole culture of clubbing has changed, and the whole idea that it's all about just taking your selfies and it's a different climate, and it's still fun, and there's still places you can go to have fun, but it certainly isn't the same as it was at like the Mud Club or Human Studio 54.
Back in our
Area.
day, darling, when
Back
people
in
were
our
people.
day.
Well, that is Night Fever on Mondays, Wow Presents Plus, and wherever you podcast. Number 9, Seth.
Number 9.
So number 9, my choice was this surprise remix of Beyonce Break My Soul, which is the song you've heard everywhere this summer, but with a special guest, Madonna slipped in. And when I started seeing rumblings of this on Twitter, I was like, where? I have to have it. I have to have it. And at that point, you could only buy it on Beyonce's website. So I paid $1.41 and I got this MP3. I had no idea what to do with it or how to really play it on my phone. But I still don't, actually. But luckily, it's on the streaming services now. And then I thought it was really good. Madonna doesn't sing new vocals on it. It's kind of a mix with Vogue. And then Beyonce does the Vogue rap with all the movie stars, but she does it all Black female singers, which is a really great moment. And the two songs really complement each other, and it seems like it's a big hit. And I think what's most exciting to me about it is I feel Madonna has needed an injection of cool for a while, and Beyonce is it. I mean, what better person to sort of like kind of bring you up and lift you up? Not that she needs it, but I don't know. Maybe she did. Anyway, she's very much now on top of the culture again. And, Madonna calls her the queen in it and gives her props. And then there's a whole rap with all the houses of La Beja and everything at the end. And it's just a really fun, queer, historic recording. So it got me very excited.
So much of this album, I haven't heard it. I admit that I'm so far behind on everything, but that T.S. Madison is on it, Kevin Aviance is on it, Big Frida. I mean, she really is going all queer on us, and it's God bless her. And then to have this Madonna moment, it just feels like Beyonce has our backs.
It's just got me thinking so much about sampling and how the profound link between sampling and pop culture and drag. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it, but they're all sort of adjacent to each other and part of the same thing. Because I think drag is about throwing on a bit of this and a bit of that. And I remember that's always what inspired us about it back in the Pyramid days, was this is sort of crazy, let's throw on the kitchen sink, this reference, that reference. And it is amazing that Beyonce has kind of chosen to reference all these underground, I don't know if that's the right word, but these kind of cutting edge queer characters. It's so unexpected.
Beyonce herself, 25 years into her career, is still more relevant today than she's ever been, and more what other artist can you say at 25 years in is even like the Rolling Stones, even Madonna, 25 years in was not as red hot as Beyonce is right now.
Oh, yeah, there's no question how red hot she is, but I just think her attaching herself to this queer movement of this century in such an unapologetic and generous way is phenomenal. Because, of course, all these people are critical and crucial in the culture, kind of like we were talking about in Night Fever. But I think historically their contribution has just been taken as a given. And here, the hottest artist on the planet is stopping and saying, no, look at them. It's an extraordinary James, yes, I know it ramps up her hotness and relevancy, but I also think it's a profoundly generous, amazing. And then I think, fuck yes, that's absolutely the way it should be. You know, this underground culture is so instrumental in the culture itself and in shaping the culture itself. James, I've lost you. I can just.
No.
You're like, is he done yet? He's just going on.
Reading into it, darling. Reading into it.
I know I'm sensitive that way. All right, let's move on. Queen's remix is amazing, Seth. I think totally. And Vogue to me is probably one of the greatest singles of all time. Seth, this is for you actually.
Number 8.
Golden Balls. The Golden Globes are back, coming back. Does anyone care? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What do you think?
Yes, I care. I'm so relieved. I mean, last year was so depressing. You know, the only thing more depressing than that is when everyone wore black to the Golden Globes. For some reason, Golden Globes.
I remember, yeah.
Everyone's issues get projected onto the Golden Globes, and it's like the one fun award show. And yes, you know, the people that do it are in need of a major rehaul. Let's not diminish that. We're talking about the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, who had, were shown to have no black members and generally be a little shady when it came to freebies and giveaways and flights and things like that. And it's always been a very shady organization. And I think people kind of thumb their nose at the seriousness of the Globe. But the actual show is one of the funnest award shows there is. It marries, film and TV world, which is increasingly becoming one and the same. But it's still exciting to see major A-list movie stars like Brad Pitt there, and then all your favorite TV stars, and everyone's getting drunk and everyone's being silly, and the hosts are very irreverent usually. Ricky.
When you think of the Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, when you think of those Ricky Gervais years, I mean, some of the hosts have been absolutely really just some of the best television award shows that there have been out there.
And also
more fun than the Oscar host, certainly.
For sure, it's way more fun than the Oscars, and there's still significant awards, whether you think they're legit or not. It's a big deal when like Rachel Zegler gets, I forget if she won, but I know she was nominated. I think she did win for West Side Story. I mean, she's a young ingenue actress, Latina coming up, and this is her big moment. And she was robbed of it last year. It was sad. And that actress from Pose who won, who had to give her speech on like Snapchat, it was like beneath us, as a award-loving society. So I'm very excited that they're back. And huzzah, thank you, NBC. And I will be watching.
James, how do you feel about it?
No, I'm with you. I always enjoy the Golden Globes. I always think there's always moments that are those viral moments that get shared everywhere. But like I said, the hosts are always hysterical. The speeches are always hysterical. Everybody's drunk. So many of the moments and the outfits, and it's one of my favorite award shows. And I was sad that it was gone last year, and I hope that this year is back and better than ever.
That's the Golden Globes back on NBC in 2023, January 10th. Let's take a quick break. I will tell you that RuPaul's Secret Celebrity Drag Race Season 2 premieres tonight, 8 p.m. on VH1. And if you're listening to a show outside of the United States, you can get it on Wow Presents Plus, wowpresentsplus.com, $4.99 a month, etc., etc., etc. All right, Blake, have you got a question for us?
I sure do. They're just silly questions this week because,
they're always silly questions with you, baby.
You're always silly. Okay. In California, you can't legally buy a mousetrap without having what?
We will have the answer to that teasing question right after the break. So Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James St. James and Seth Abramovich. And of course, Blake with a particularly silly question this week.
Yeah. In California, you can't legally buy a mousetrap without having what?
Cheese. You got to have some cheese to put in it.
A
Or
gun.
peanut butter. A gun. Okay, that's a good one.
Driver's license?
Close. A hunting license.
What?
What? No.
Is that true?
I don't think it's really enforced, but yeah.
Oh, ding dong.
Hey, get out my mousetrap and go hunting to bag some game. We are counting down the top 10 things that made us go, wow. We've reached number 7. It's James's turn.
Number 7.
James, I watched last night They, Them, or rather, they/them, which is a very important distinction. I don't know if you know what this is. It is the first non-binary horror slasher film starring Kevin Bacon and Anna Klumsky on the Peacock Network, and it is set in a gay conversion camp in the woods in which there is a masked killer on the loose, and he is slashing all the non-binary kids who are there to be converted. It starts off really great. It has this really great premise, and it's this group of kids, and some of them are self-loathing and want to change. Some of them, their parents have sent them there. Some of them are there, have been forced there, and they all get together, and it's this different kind of conversion therapy camp. And Kevin Bacon comes out and explains that it's not Bible thumping and there's no homophobic rhetoric, and they're just there to self-actualize and heal themselves. And it seems all very cool, and everyone sort of buys into it in the beginning, but then all the counselors begin these weird mind fucks. They're just absolutely it's just really creepy how just creepy conversion therapy is in general, but this really goes the extra mile. And at the same time, there's a masked killer in the woods who is slashing them all one by one, and it goes on like that, and you're really buying into it. And some of the characters are there's some just, I mean, it's very poorly written, but when it works, it works. But then all of a sudden it goes off the rail in the last 30 minutes, and it just descends into absolute nuttiness. And I don't know that I can recommend it, but if you want to just watch the first half hour, it's a really good setup for a horror film.
Does Kevin Bacon play a villain? Because he always does such good villains.
Yes, he is the leader of the conversion therapy camp, and he, like I said, he starts off by being all lovey-dovey and in the kids' corners, but he is as creepy as they come. And of course, you see who the slasher is, from the very beginning. But it's still kind of worth the ride. I give it both thumbs up and thumbs down, and it's interesting if you have an hour and a half to spend.
Kevin Bacon was in Friday the 13th, the first one.
Well, it is funny because they reference that a lot, and the players, the slasher sort of has a hockey mask kind of appearance, and there's a scene where there's a girl out on a raft in the middle of the lake, and she says something like, "I expect Jason Voorhees to come," or something. Like they keep referencing Friday the 13th in it, and so yeah.
Okay.
Seth, you've not seen it?
No, it's on Peacock, which is always the streamer just out of reach. But
yeah,
but if it was good,
I had gotten it a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the Days of Our Lives Beyond Salem that they have. So I purchased it. So I happened to have it, and that's how I stumbled across this.
I think it would be terrible fate to be the streamer just out of reach. I don't want to leave the room. I fear that one might say, "Oh, Wow Presents Plus, just that little bit out of reach."
No, that Wow Presents is the one I reach for first. See how the Canadian drag queens are doing.
They are doing good too, really.
Yes,
oh my
good
God.
season.
Well, that's They, Them. So that's streaming on Peacock, right?
They/them.
They/them. Yes, they do. Okay. Number 6, Seth.
Number 6.
Well, why don't we stay on the theme? I saw a kind of horror movie called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Now, this one has a slightly better pedigree. It's from A24, the very hip indie studio, and it stars Pete Davidson of SNL and Kim Kardashian fame. And it premiered at South by Southwest to good reviews, and so I was curious, and then I saw the trailer, and I don't know if it's as much a horror movie as like an updated Agatha Christie for 2022, Euphoria audiences. It's a whodunit, and they end up, trapped in a house during a storm, and it's a group of Gen Z kind of spoiled, bratty friends, and they do a lot of drugs.
10 little Indians.
Yes. But what's clever about it, and a little bit breakthrough, is that it mocks all the tropes of that generation and all the sort of the wounded, victimized language you see on Twitter,
like Clue,
a lot of
Knives Out, maybe.
I saw this last night, and I was gonna say it's Clue meets Clueless meets Heathers meets Knives Out.
Yeah, but it's more. There's more mayhem going on, and but it does kind of really capture that certain kind of youth language and the way they kind of weaponize victimhood, and it's kind of clever because then they become literal victims. So that's a kind of I thought was like a risk, they could risk backlash, but it works. And I'm not going to say anything specific about the plot except that you will leave the theater very satisfied. Did you, Blake?
I loved it. Yeah, I thought it was super fun, and Alice was my favorite. She was kind of the ditzy friend, and she was
Rachel Sennett.
Yeah, who was on Call Your Mother, which was a short-lived sitcom on NBC for a couple of years ago. And then who else was in it? Amandla Steinberg is in it. And the girl who was in Borat 2 is one of the leads.
And what's the tall guy's name? Lee Pace is in it.
I love Lee Pace. Oh, he's so handsome.
Yes. He's very funny in it.
My big
he is a great part.
Is Pete Davidson, he is a movie star, isn't he? How is he in this? Is he fun?
Yes, he's very fun. He's definitely playing, himself. So don't expect for, some great acting turn or whatever, but he's very good in it, I thought. He's very good.
And this is a movie that you see in theaters, or you can get. Is it on streaming somewhere?
In theaters. I think it's in a few theaters in LA now, but I think this Friday it opens wide, and it's 90 minutes. Beautiful, so nice, short. You're in, you're out. You'll laugh, and so I recommend.
Well, with the previous movie and this, is this a trend of like sort of woke horror in the woke space?
And no.
Yes.
Oh no, yes. I think that there's always going to be horror for every generation, and you just have to keep making it fresh for everyone because it's not going away.
Yeah, these movies will age horribly. They'll age as badly as Friday the 13th did, but they're a beautiful snapshot of where we are right now. So I don't see that as bad. I like movies like that just are of the moment.
Well, that is Bodies. That's in theaters, right? That's not streaming.
Yeah. You have to go to the theater to see that one.
Number 5. I want to talk about a movie no one's going to see. Batgirl.
Oh!
WTF? Like, what? And again, I got to ask you, like, I don't understand how it works that you make a movie for $90 million. You spent the money, you edit the movie, and then you're like, nope, not going to release it. Just going to, like, what kind of...
And not even if it planned to be in theaters and you don't think it's good, why not just dump it on your streaming? Why not just, you made it, why does it go away? How can it just go away?
James and I want to know, Seth. You have to.
From what I've read, to be honest, I don't know. But from what I've read and what I've talked to my colleagues, it does have to do with tax write-offs. That if they don't if they don't make any money off of it whatsoever, if it stays in the vault,
It's
they
the
can write
it's the
down
Springtime for Hitler, the producer's theory.
pretty much
Yeah.
that they can write down this $90 million thing in their taxes, and they'll come out ahead on the ledger. But you upset a lot of people,
Especially because the lead was a Latina actress, and wasn't Batgirl played by a Latina? I mean, that's
yeah, she was in
great
the Heights, yeah.
Yeah, so it just seems like it was such a great moment for DC fans and for the Latin community, and it just seemed like to have a superhero of Batgirl's caliber. It just feels very sad, like real loss.
And shocking, but this new CEO came in from Discovery, Zaslav, and he clearly wants to, he's swinging his bat around and showing who's boss, and
swinging his bat around.
But they are.
But I do want to also say that if DC is going to dump a movie, they should be dumping that Flash disaster, because Ezra Miller is just every time they turn around, they are in more and more trouble, and it spells doom for the project. They've sunk many $100 million into this movie that has this absolutely toxic star that is going to sink the project. If you're ever going to get rid of something at DC, you get rid of the Flash and move on.
Yeah, and weirdly at the earnings call, he cited Flash as being a really great movie and one that they're excited about, and that they were going to do reshoots on.
That is
and make it even
Trumpism
better.
right there, doubling down on something that is clearly going to sink you.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I think the DC multiverse is a pale imitation of the Marvel. The MCU. But James doesn't want to hear that.
If you don't ever give the boys a chance, I'm going to talk about Harley Quinn. There are some things out there that you just do not give a chance, and it makes me furious that you sit on your high throne and talk about the wonder that is frat boy porn, Marvel, and it just makes me furious because Marvel is for straight frat boys, whereas DC is as queer as they come. And how dare you, Mr.
Well,
I don't know if that's true, but I don't see it as being quite so black and white. I mean, like,
we can argue this until the cows come home, and you will not change my mind.
Well, I love that. Someone called me and said, well, you should call Zaslav up, as if I can just say, hi, David, what's going on? Which I can't, but suggesting I just call him up and say, give us the movie, because you've written it down. You can't make any money off of it. So just give us the movie and we'll put it on Wow Presents Plus. And I was like, well, that seems like a good idea.
At the very least, you could do a great Rusical of Batgirl.
Or at least be Beyonce-esque about it and do some sort of remix on the cut and, mash it up with a few things. And I was thinking that maybe it's like a conspiracy. Like, what if he said, we're writing it down, blah, 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 earnings call, blah, blah, blah. And then one day it will be released to universal interest and acclaim. People will just be frenzied for it. Did you see that great meme that was going around? You remember the Diana Spencer movie that was Oscar nominated last season? Yeah. Well, she often spends a lot of time staggering down hallways looking pained.
Yes,
and the meme was like me trying to get out of the DC headquarters with a hard drive of Batgirl stuffed up my ass.
It was awful.
It was awful. It was wrong in every kind of way. But it made me think that, like, surely someone somehow is going to get the movie's going to come out one way or another, right?
I mean, they have a vested financial interest in it, and it's staying in the vault. But it is a new question. I mean, what do you do? They used to say destroy the negative. That was how you got rid of a movie forever. But negatives don't exist anymore. It's all bits, So it seems like it would leak eventually.
Lewis is the clown who cried is still hidden. I think maybe that this could probably stay hidden too.
I think it's like Kim Kardashian's porn tape. I think it's going to come out one way or another.
Unlike the clown who cried, I don't think this one's really that exciting to watch. The Clown Who Cried, I definitely would like to get my eyes on that one. For sure.
Let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll continue counting down the top 10 things that made us go, wow. Blake, have you got a question?
Of course I do, and it's even sillier than the first.
Mm.
What toy was banned in Indonesia for stimulating passion?
We'll have the answer right after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James and Seth from The Hollywood Reporter and Blake with
Hi.
the silliest question ever asked.
What toy was banned in Indonesia for stimulating passion?
I'm going to say Mr. Potato Head.
James?
Hello Kitty flashlight. I don't know.
Rubik's Cube.
The hula hoop.
Oh, that's because it gets your body parts all tingly and moving, I
I
guess.
guess so.
When was it banned for in the 1900s or what?
I'm guessing in the 50s when it came out.
Oh.
The hula hoop.
All right. Hey, snatch your tickets now to meet tons of queens from your favorite Drag Race franchises: RuPaul's Drag Race UK, Drag Race France, Drag Race España, Drag Race Holland, Drag Race Italia. Yes, they are all going to be at the biggest convention in Drag Race history, RuPaul's DragCon.com in the UK, January 6th, 7th, and 8th, 2023. Counting down top 10 things that made us go wow. Number 4.
Number 4.
Well, apropos of nothing, I just want to talk about what a sizzling run DC is having right now and how spectacular they're doing. They have a show out called Harley Quinn on HBO Max that is probably one of the raunchiest animated shows ever put out there. It's season 3. Now, Harley Quinn, if you don't know, was Joker's girlfriend, but she is sort of this pansexual chaos demon. And now she is in a relationship with Poison Ivy. She's in a lesbian relationship with Poison Ivy. And when I say that it is raunchy and it is raw, and you see these girls do things that you have never seen cartoon characters do before, it is crazy. Last season, there was a bit of a kerfuffle when the makers of Harley Quinn wanted to show a scene of Batman going down on Catwoman, giving oral sex to her. And Warner Brothers said, no, heroes don't do that. And the fanboy community went bananas talking about what a selfish lover Batman is and how dare Batman not give cunnilingus to Catwoman. And it turned into this whole thing. Well, this season, they addressed that, and there's a very funny scene where Harley Quinn is on the phone with Catwoman, and Catwoman hangs up the phone, and you see her legs are spread, and Batman is between her legs, and then the camera pulls back, and you see that he's just giving her a foot massage, and he says, do you want some more? And she's like, it's not worth it. And it's sort of like a wink to this controversy of, can Batman eat out Catwoman? Then this next episode, there's the Court of Owls, which is the secret clandestine society in Gotham, has an orgy, and it's like an Eyes Wide Shut orgy, and all the heroes and all the villains are there in masks. Batman is there, Commissioner Gordon is there, Penguin, Riddler, Joker. Everybody is having sex with everybody, and it is absolutely the raunchiest, craziest thing you've ever seen. When you see Bane like trying to jerk himself off, but it's just like that, it just is unbelievable. And earlier this year on The Boys, which is the best show on television bar none, there was a Hero-gasm was an episode, and all the heroes had an orgy, and the fans are saying that this goes farther than The Boys, which is hard to believe, that this is one of the raunchiest orgies you have ever seen committed to film. Even though it's animated, it is still absolutely shocking to see Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon getting it on with the Riddler and the Joker. It is insane. And when I tell you that DC has never been more on fire with this project than they are, you have to give them their props.
Wow, I'm looking forward to the Flash now.
But anyway, so Harley Quinn season 3, HBO Max. Kaylee Cuoco is the voice of Harley Quinn, and she is absolutely hysterical. the whole show is just off the rails nuts.
Wow.
Well, I have to ask, what do you think of Lady Gaga playing Harley Quinn in the Joker sequel?
Well, if I loved the first Joker, I thought that Joaquin Phoenix did an amazing job. If they continue on that route, I'm there for it, and I'll give Gaga a chance. I mean, if it's a musical, it's going to be dark, it's going to be twisted, and it's going to be weird. So yeah, definitely. And I also, Fenton, you did not give the Batman a chance with Robert Pattinson, and I'm telling you, it is one of the most beautifully shot superhero movies of all time. I wish you would have given it a chance. I wish you would watch it.
I watched 40 minutes.
No, you didn't.
I did. I swear.
Oh, and what? You gave up? You thought it just wasn't worth your time?
I love this fighting. Yes, I thought it was ugly and violent and pointless. Yeah.
Oh, for the love of Christ.
I liked it, but I thought it took him too long to figure out what the clue about the flying rat represented. It's like, what do you think it represented? He's like, a penguin? It's like, no.
Quibbling.
I can tell you're just a DC boy, James. We're going on to number 3, Seth.
Number 3.
This is another show. It's very controversial. Some people love it. Some people hate it. I'm somewhere in the middle right now, and it's The Rehearsal on HBO. I don't know if you are familiar with Nathan Felder, but he's a Canadian, very dry comedian who did Nathan For You on Comedy Central. And that one, it's kind of like Sacha Baron Cohen, where he plays, he finds real people around the country and with problems with their businesses, and he comes up with the most ridiculous solutions. But because they don't know who he is, they think the solutions are like legit, and he goes all the way with it. And it's brilliantly funny. And as it went on, it got more and more epic, I guess. And the last few, he goes on this whole like adventure, and there's multiple characters. So I think he took that, the satisfaction of kind of getting bigger with it, and brought it to HBO. And they gave him what it seems like a very huge budget to spin this story. And it's too hard to explain in one sentence, but basically he's coming to people who have problems and saying, okay, before you confront such and such to tell them that you've done this, we're gonna recreate your life. And he recreates their apartments, the restaurants they go to, the bars. He has them built like to the exact, and he hires actors to play all the people in their lives. And he goes through it over and over and over again, thinking of every possible permutation of what might happen when this confrontation or this thing comes to light. That's sort of the most basic version, but what's revealing itself, and it's just had its 4th episode, is that he has much bigger ambitions with it, and he really wants to melt your brain and go into Charlie Kaufman-esque, areas where you don't even know what's real or not anymore. And I don't know if you've seen Synecdoche, New York, but it was Charlie Kaufman's I think it was his first stab at actually directing after having written a bunch of amazing screenplays. And it was about a guy who tries to recreate his entire life in a warehouse, building sets and everything. So it definitely has that, as an inspiration, I can tell. And the criticism of it is that a lot of these people are not the brightest or a little weird, and that he might be taking advantage of them because he kind of is like the puppet master. But he doesn't really hide that fact, but it can get uncomfortable sometimes when you see him doing this stuff. I don't know. Some people feel uncomfortable.
Are the critics being kind to it though? Is it award season prestige?
Generally, it's gotten very glowing reviews. People call him a genius. But there's one review from the New York Times, the New Yorker, from their film critic who didn't get it and thought it was just crass and cruel and didn't ask the right questions, and that he was very smug, and he kind of missed the point of Nathan's shtick, which is he becomes the joke as much as his marks. But it is very different from anything you're going to see on TV, and I plan on watching all 8 episodes, and I do recommend it if you want something that sort of makes you think and cringe and laugh.
I think I'm going to check it out this weekend. That sounds fascinating.
It does.
It is bad.
I mean, there's so much playing with levels of reality these days and everything. It's pretty I mean, I'm still recovering from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like,
yeah, it's gonna melt your mind. Yeah. And then he gets in a group of actors and teaches them, and then another group of actors to play those actors. And it's like, if that kind of stuff like frustrates you and you're just like, I'm out, then probably don't watch it. But if you really like to have your head played with, I think it's worth watching. Maybe even, really smoking a little something first.
All right, The Rehearsal on HBO Max. Number two. I'm so glad I can talk about this, because normally when Tom's here, we can't mention him. And of course it's Trump. And I just like was so excited. I'm showing my partisan colors, I guess. I was so excited when they raided Mar-a-Lago. I mean, that was one thing. Then the next thing was, I was so excited when they showed photographs of ripped up documents blocking the loo, and then as a trifecta, he went and testified all day, sat and said, invoked the Fifth Amendment, refused to answer any question other than the one question, which was his name.
Hour after hour after hour, something like 7 or 8 hours of just saying,
Yes.
plead the fifth, plead the fifth.
And someone said, if you are innocent, why are you taking the fifth?
Well, that was Donald Trump. That was Donald Trump who said it. And also, when you think and the way the Republicans have lost their damn minds over this, when they were the ones, when Hillary Clinton had the server and lock her up. But by God, when it's on the other foot, that just the whole scenario is just bizarre.
But it isn't even an on another foot situation, because Hillary Clinton testified in Congress for how God knows how many hours on Benghazi. She never took the fifth, did she?
Yeah.
I don't think she did. Not once.
And and Trump was also the one who said only mobsters take the fifth. I think that
Right.
was his favorite quote. And of course, Judge Jeanine Pirro, I watched her the other day, and just in the Waters guy on Fox 2, just them all absolutely losing their minds. It's hard not to just sit back and giggle at how crazy the situation is. But has it given him a boost? Has it helped his chances in 2024? We shall see.
What do you think, Seth?
He seems like a wounded animal at this point. I don't know, but he's surprised us before. But I don't predict that he's going to be an issue in 2024.
Well,
but
I would rather have him than DeSantis by any day. I tell you, DeSantis is terrifying, and I think it might come down to Newsom versus DeSantis in 2024, and that
interesting. Yeah. I have no doubt they'll find someone as awful as him. That I have no question. But whether it'll be him, I don't know, especially after this week. But I don't know. It's the ongoing soap opera that affects us all.
It is. And I think it's sort of mind melting, actually. It's like The Rehearsal, isn't it? It's like layers within layers. I mean, and the basement stuffed with boxes of documents. I mean, what? WTF? It's like, how I cannot even form the sentences to even be remotely articulate about it, because it's just so outrageous. And then people are like out there protesting, and what's her face is saying defund the FBI. I mean, what? It's like
exactly. They were the ones who were saying, making fun of the left for saying defund the police, and now they're the ones saying defund the FBI. It is that layer upon layer upon layer of just alternate reality on top of alternate reality that is just alternate facts and craziness.
Right. Cannot even. Well, okay. Let's take one last break. We have a very special surprise coming up as number one. Although a little melancholy, but stick around, because right after the break, we'll reveal the number one thing that made us go wow here on the Wow Report.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
And welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with, I was going to say Tom, but Tom's not here. Well, he sort of is, but I'll get to that in a minute. I am here with James St. James and Seth Abramovich, and calling in very special guest. Is that a blue screen background I see before me, Tom Campbell?
I am so happy to say it's not. I'm here in Sunnyton, New Hampshire, Mountain View Lake.
That is not real. Get out
I
of
know, it looks so bucolic and so beautiful. It's hard to believe that places like that still exist.
I'm a very lucky guy.
I feel we're watching Soylent Green. You know, when the guy goes off to euthanize himself and they see beautiful videos of fields and flowers. This is, and Tommy wearing a very fetching hat as well.
My friend Greg said I look like Henry Fonda in On Golden Pond. So it's one compliment after another.
I love it. We've been counting down the top 10 things that make us go, wow. Sadly, we have reached number 1.
Number 1.
I had to break my vacation just to be with you guys and to share with you. I flew to Boston. I got off the airport. I was sleeping the whole flight. On Monday, I turned on my phone. I saw a New York Times news bulletin. My eyes blurry. Olivia Newton-John passed away at 73. And I lost my breath. I'm telling you guys, I'm going to be a cornball here. I sort of ran into it. I got out of the line, kind of leaned against the wall. And I looked up and I realized, well, no one's looking at me. I'll keep going. And the next person I spoke to a few minutes later was my sister, because she's picking me up at the curb. And I hadn't spoken. And I'm like, Amy. And I just bawled like a baby. I could not. It just was a genuine, and I said to her, I didn't want to freak her out. Like, I didn't think I was going to cry. Olivia Newton-John, as anyone who knows me, I've loved for so long, since the very beginning. I was 10 years old when I bought Let Me Be There, her first American hit.
Let me be there.
And she had, huge hits up until like 1983. So, and I've just been thinking about this a lot lately. That takes me from 10 to 20. And so much changes in your life from 10 to 20. And Olivia was the it girl. And of course, we all remember her and love her from Grease. And that sort of immortalizes her. And it kind of tells her story, because before Grease, she was a huge star. She had #1 records. She was this Australian British import who won, country awards, had #1 songs, I Honestly Love You, during a kind of pre-ironic 70s when things was very straightforward and beautiful. And then with Grease, she had an opportunity to like reinvent herself. And people always slut shame Sandy. It's like, damn it, like she wanted to like, get down and have some fun with John Travolta. It's like, come on, that's we were all feeling the same way. And then of course her career after that, she had Physical, which was the biggest song of the 80s, not Madonna, not George Michael, not Whitney Houston, Olivia Newton-John.
And Xanadu, do not forget how formative Xanadu was for me. I remember I was it was a summer and I'd gone to the record store and I saw Xanadu. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea there was a movie. I got the album. I went home, Electric Light Orchestra, one album, Olivia Newton-John the other, and just it blew my little mind. It was a mix of disco and new wave, and it was
people always wanted
so
to
beautiful.
dismiss her talents, and she had one of the most distinctive, beautiful, on-pitch voices. She worked with John Farrar her entire career. They made incredible music, incredibly varied music together. And of course, in 1992, she was diagnosed for the first time with breast cancer, and she was very public about it. And she made a big point. There's a big cancer center named after her that she was a part of in Melbourne, which was a cancer center with a wellness center. So she was very much about Eastern and Western medicine working together. And 30 years later, she succumbed to cancer, but she's just beyond the career. Beyond her beauty was external, but it was so internal that I don't think she ever let anyone down. I just rewatched a CBS This Morning where she talks about her cancer and knowing about death and dealing with it and how she never complained. She's just the most beautiful. And for a little gay boy, she somehow made everything okay. And she made everything, and she was a safe.
I just want to say that I broke down in tears when they were doing a sort of a retrospective on the news when it came out, and when I Honestly Love You, when she started singing that, and I was just like, I honestly loved her, and I literally just broke down in tears. It was very,
I can't
very
think of a
sad.
controversy or a time that she let people down, or she never took things too seriously. She always had a smile. We had her on Drag Race, and I've met her a couple of times. I probably told you the story, but there was Sandy Gown through a Christmas party in 1988, the most amazing party I've ever been to, will ever be to. And it was Bob Dylan and Streisand, and it was like hundreds of celebrities of that ilk. And Olivia was there with Matt Lattanzi, and I was able to corner her. And
Matt Lattanzi, we haven't even talked about her first husband.
But I got to tell her how much I loved her. And my friend John Tolan's reminded me that not only did you love her, you got a chance in your life. And I didn't post a picture of me with her, even I have one, because it's not about me and her. It's about what she emanated. And my last thing you guys to talk is when gay marriage was bubbling up and I kind of didn't see it. I couldn't see us having gay marriage. And I thought also, who wants to buy into the institution of marriage? I get it. But like I said, we just need to create our own kind of marriage. We need to like redefine it. And I thought we should call it Xanadu. And if you listen to the lyrics of Xanadu, it speaks to the dream that lived through a million years, that lived on through all the tears. We call it Xanadu. So if you get married, if I ever get married, if anyone will ever marry me, we'll actually just go to Xanadu.
Well, that is a beautiful tribute. Seth, do you have a Xanadu moment to?
Well, of course, she touched me greatly. I mean, Grease, indelible. And but I have one anecdote that's secondhand, but I'll share it because it kind of shows her personality. And it's I once interviewed the woman who played Snow White on the Oscars infamous telecast.
Yes.
And I said, what happened after you got off stage after that whole crazy performance? And she said, I went into the dressing room and Olivia Newton-John was just sitting there. And she turned to me and she looked me in the eyes. She said, wow, she didn't say anything bad. She just said, that was incredible. How did you get through all that? Something like that. And in a very sort of supportive way, and I think she gave her a hug or something, but there was something in the way that that was her little guardian angel when she got off the stage of that really horrible moment that touched me a lot and said a lot about her personality. That she looked her in the eye because everyone else was giving her the cold shoulder,
Oh.
But she talked to her and congratulated her, and I thought that was really sweet. That's what I thought of.
That is so beautiful. Rest in perfection, Olivia Newton-John. Tom, thank you so much for breaking into your lakeside vacation to share that. Seth, thank you for joining us again. And James and James, always a pleasure.
Thank you, darling.
Yes. Same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
Wow.
Xanadu.